Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly podcast on sustainable development. Today, we're going to talk about urbanization and sustainable cities, and we have two very important people with us today. We have Enrico Fedi, that is a very important Italian academic scholar that has worked a lot in urbanization from a political ecology point of view. And we have Jose Madrigal, which is a very experienced urban planner from Central America, from Honduras. So we are going to talk about sustainable cities and urbanization with them. So first, Enrico, thank you for being with us today. So I wanted to ask you, because sometimes we see infrastructure from the physical point of view, like roads, buildings, etc. But with political ecology, we can embrace a new element in infrastructure where we can see relationships between people and actually people as infrastructure.
Yeah.
So tell us more about how people and their relationships and actions are seen or studied in political ecology.
Yeah, perfect. So actually, when we think of infrastructure, we have to think of the fact that we are not only objects, but also people. People itself made the infrastructure of the city. So when thinking of doing policies on the city, people have to be taken into account. And urban political ecology explores the relationship between the body in the terms of people and the infrastructure and the social material configuration with it. So urban political ecology is really interested in understanding the micropolitics of access, of provision, the routines of people, and how all these things with the objective infrastructure create the city and the atmosphere and the spatial geography. So we have to. And understanding this is really important also to really understand all the things concerned with poverty and inequality. So it is really important for urban political ecology to explore the linkages between the body and the infrastructure. Also, nowadays the policies shaping our cities are driven by rationalism, and urban political ecology is here to question all the background and to provide new concepts. Yeah.
Great. And I think it's very important what you say about how there are intersectionalities with gender, with ethnicity, with class in this study of urban politics.
We have to study, in fact, all the different classes, ages and nationalities and genders, because all of them are differently affected by urban policies. And so it's really important to also focus on this. There are many examples coming from South Africa, India, wherever. And so urban political ecology has to take into account the complexity of society, yes, and understanding of the values.
Great. Thank you, Enrico. So, Jose, we were talking with Enrico how sometimes we see these building cities for people, but sometimes how we see people as infrastructure building their livelihood when we're missing these physical infrastructure. But I want to go further from this element. And when we're talking about sustainable cities and how make all cities sustainable or create new models of sustainable cities, this is sustainable for who? Or what is actually sustainable?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and I would go in line with Enrico's argument in terms that unfortunately, at least in the last decades, many of the sustainable cities or sustainability discourse that we've utilized in the practice, it has normally been towards economic growth, towards the private interest, towards enterprises, and not necessarily towards the local people or to societies that actually have different necessities than the ones that are portrayed or seen in the interest of the economic growth, for example, discourse. So that's unfortunate. Hopefully it will start to change. Hopefully through the urban and political ecology, we will start to analyze things in a different way and take in consideration all the factors that Enrico said just right now.
Very important, we also see a lot of ethnicity or racial discourses in this development of urbanization. And to continue with this epistemological discussion, so we need to do some changes, and policy making has to embrace these new models or include this local knowledge, these inequalities. But then again, who are the urban planners? Where the knowledge come from? Who is an expert and who's not?
Yeah, that's a fundamental question, because at the end of the day, you see lots of projects in China, in Latin America, where most of the planners, urban planners, or the knowledge people come from the same places, which are basically the United States, Europe, sometimes Sweden. But yeah, Europe as a whole. So we have to start to change that and to introduce local knowledge into those formulas. I guess the challenge will be trying to convince the city governments in order to also not only consider the branding of a certain project, and which will be supported by certain knowledge, but also the whole synergies of the whole project by considering different types of knowledge. For example, indigenous knowledge. We normally don't consider them, and that's really important, I believe.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jose,
Thank
and
you.
thank you, Rico.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.